You know,
Good
I'm
morning.
gonna get, I gotta get my husband to pull that shade down. I'll be right back.
Being bathed in lights there.
Yeah, David, you've got the best spot.
Soon we'll be able to share it again with everybody. So soon.
Who else was in the building?
So far, I saw one security guard, one circulation supervisor, one other manager. That's the extent of my encounters this morning. Still not a normal day at the library.
Navjeet, how's your family? Is everybody okay?
Yes, everyone's good. Thank you.
Good. Good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning. How are you?
Healthy.
Yeah, same here.
All right, I'm ready. I got my coffee refilled, my water.
Me too, Evelyn. Me too.
I know. Good morning. Good morning, Joyce, Samawa.
Oh, I need to put.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Zamawa.
Senator, good morning.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Christian.
Let's see, who do we have?
He's connected.
We are waiting on.
Good morning, Christian.
Good morning, Priscilla. Good morning, everyone.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Apparently, everybody is rushing back to sports stadiums, right? Getting tickets and to music venues and everything.
I rushed back to Home Depot to get flowers and I got sick. Go figure.
Allergies. It's flowers.
That's it.
So Pamela, you'll let us know when to begin?
Yes, we're still waiting on a chunk of the trustees.
Okay.
It's just 8:30 now, if you wouldn't mind just waiting a minute.
No, definitely. Good morning, Jabari. Those are some big books.
Good morning. Subtle approach.
You could fall into one of them. Good morning, Joseph, Jeff.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Nice to see you all.
Good to see you too.
We missing?
Hey, Pamela, just a FYI, I'm gonna have to jump off at 9 for like 15 or 20 minutes and I'll come back on.
Okay.
Hey, Pamela, FYI, about this exact same time frame as well for about 10 minutes, and then I'll get right back on.
Okay.
And to be clear, Mike and I are not in the same meeting, I don't think.
You can use the same link.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
think we have them.
Hey Joyce, did you hear me say hello to you?
Are you asking me?
No, Joyce.
Oh, I thought you said Joe.
Oh, no, yeah.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, we have a quorum, Priscilla, if you'd like to start. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded.
So welcome all to the annual trustees meeting. We have two separate meetings today, and the first is the annual meeting of the trustees, acting as an administrative agency to address ongoing business. And in the second meeting, we convene as trustees of the corporation, acting as a separate nonprofit corporation. And these meetings are going to be held consecutively. So we have a full agenda and lots of really good news. Today, David and his staff will share with you the accomplishments of 2021, but I want to highlight the outstanding success to date of the Repairing America theme and all of the programs in the neighborhoods, which are designed to invite conversations, explore new ideas, and develop new job skills. Launched in January, I hope that you have had an opportunity to view at least a few of the programs on WGBH with David as the moderator. They've been really, really great. And if you haven't seen them, no worries, you can catch them because they're streaming on WGBH. So we can all take pride in this innovative programming that intends to bridge the racial, social, economic challenges of today. So in that spirit, and before we do the roll call, I will officially begin this meeting with these words. The trustees of the Boston Public Library reaffirm our commitment to racial equity and to the principles of diversity, equity, inclusion. More broadly, the library is formally committed to become an anti-racist organization. We acknowledge also that the Boston Public Library Central Library stands on lands that was once a water-based ecosystem, providing sustenance for the indigenous Massachusetts people. We reaffirm this commitment to set the context for our planning and for our conversation today, for our deliberations and public engagement, so that they can take place from the spirit of welcome and respect found in our motto, free to all. And as you know, and all of us are committed to, words matter. Free to all, free to be. And we're going to be reminded of our most basic freedoms, especially next week when we honor George Floyd and his last words. So with that spirit and reaffirming our commitment to these important principles, I would like to ask Pamela to do the roll call.
Certainly. I will just use your last names for efficiency this meeting. Arana Ortiz,
Present.
Arenas,
Present.
Asim,
Present.
Present.
Doug, count as roll call. Berman,
Present.
Bradley, Cronin,
Present.
Douglas,
Present.
Dorsina Fori, Hyler,
Present.
Hawkins,
Present.
Linehan,
Present.
Rush,
Present.
Tyler, China Tyler, and Westra.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Trustee Tyler is being promoted from the attendee room to panelist.
Thank you, David.
Hi, Pam. Good morning. I'm present.
Thank you, China.
And-
Linda Sorsi is also in the
Yep.
attendee room.
I was just saying, I bet you that was the
Right,
case.
yeah.
Okay. Please feel free to move on, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, and welcome all. So we have everyone here, and you just heard me read this statement, reconfirmation of our values, which we voted in as trustees last September. And I would like to ask the trustees, I'd like to take a formal vote that the trustees, all of us, use and adopt this opening statement for all of the public trustee meetings. And there's the full statement that is in front of you. So I'd like to call for a vote on this.
So moved.
So move. A second.
Second.
I'll go through the roll. Arano Ortiz,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Asim,
Yes.
Bal,
Yes.
Berman.
Yes.
Has Brad joined us? Cronin,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Messina Fori,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Hawkins,
Yes.
Linehan,
Yes.
Rush,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
and Westra.
Yes.
So moved.
Great, thank you. So, when you, someone reminded me, well, hey, there are a lot of words here on this sheet. So as a chair of a committee, please, you can deliver this with the essence of these key messages. You can either read the whole thing or do what I just did, which was just give the key messages. So thank you. I have 3 updates. And the first is, I'm pleased to report that all of the new trustees have been appointed to a committee, and the committee members are listed on the website. The second update is that the current members of the special collection committees, our formal relationship with them has ended, and we've appointed some new committee members. And I want to thank the members of the special collections committee, especially Dr. Bill Stoneham. And I think many of you know him. He was a former chair of the Special Collections Committee, and he brought immense expertise to the committee as a curator. He was the curator of the early books and manuscripts at Houghton Library, so we thank him. And we really value the expertise of the members of the Special Collections. And although I know we have a full agenda, I really want to read their names into the record and to formally thank them. That's Brian Clancy, Michael Ewald, Barbara Blauber, Elizabeth Johnson, Brenda Lawson, Vivian Sparrow, and Cheryl Nixon, who you may know, she was the UMass Associate Provost. She's now the Provost at Fort Lewis College. We treasure their contribution, and we thank them for their commitment. And I know we'll be calling on them again, so they haven't gone that far. So the Special Collections Committee is a committee that's in formation. I'm not going to go through their names, though their names will be posted on our website. The next update, final update that I have for you is that we're forming a new committee with the working title, Strategic Community Engagement. And I've asked Trustee Joyce Linehan to chair the committee. And the high-level purpose of this committee is to ensure that all the people in our neighborhoods are aware that the library has the resources and reach to help them advance the quality of their life, achieve their hopes, dreams, and aspirations. And this committee will link closely with the engagement initiatives that you're going to hear about shortly in our 2021 strategic plan. The first activity of this committee will be taking a deep dive into all the many programs and then to determine their charter. So the Special Collections Committee and this new committee on strategic community engagement are committees in their formation. Any questions on this? Questions, comments?
Not related. I just want to let everyone know that Ben Bradley has joined the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go on to the president's report.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Good morning, trustees. I have a couple of items to report on, and I would first like to report on the accomplishments and initiatives document that we present to the City Council of the City of Boston annually as a report on our efforts to date and on some upcoming initiatives relative to the City of Boston budget and the library as a whole. The 17-page document, I believe, was distributed to all trustees in advance. And so you will also find the PowerPoint that I will just go through now, which is summarizing the highlights from this document in the packet for the meeting today. Next slide, please. The team that will present at City Council is listed here, including Ellen, our Chief Financial Officer, Michael Culford, Director of Library Services, Laura Ermshire, Chief of Collections, and Eamon Shelton, Director of Operations. Obviously, the work reflected in the report is the product of all of the staff under all of these divisions and departments. Next slide, please. Key accomplishments over the last year include the following areas. Within our COVID-19 pandemic reality, an incredibly robust set of programs and services offered both virtually and indeed to a limited extent where possible in person as well. We particularly highlighted our digital equity work made manifest through the lending of additional hotspots, Chromebooks, extending Wi-Fi at different locations, book bundles and craft kits that were generated by the local staff across branches and neighborhoods as one more way in which we could replace not fully replace, of course, but replace the ability of coming into our branches to collect materials. And additionally, we had virtual tours and brochures related to the McKim building for those that also could not tour in person. One of the key highlights from a quantitative point of view is the effect on our total circulation numbers in FY21, the year that is ending next month. We predict that we will be at our highest total of about 5.2 million items circulated, which in this year is obviously weighted towards the digital lending, but includes a substantial number of items lent through the BPL to Go program. By the time we hit June 30th, this will probably double the circulation of digital items from just 3 years ago. Many of us, of course, will want to see what happens as we return to in-person services in the year ahead to both our digital lending and our physical item lending. And additionally, we signed up now 77,000 new patrons for e-cards over the last 12 months, thus proving the relevance not just in regular times of the library to people's lives, but even during this pandemic, where the bulk of our work was restricted to the online environment. Next slide, please. Additionally, we will highlight, in addition to the work that Priscilla indicated in her opening remarks with respect to repairing America and our statements, the major achievement in this area of the library in 2020 included formal ratification of the statement and the action plan following from it, additional work around our acquisitions policy, including a grant coordinated through the Boston Public Library Fund to increase our anti-racist materials to the tune of $75,000. Over the last year, we have engaged with YW Boston as an equity consulting partner to help the organization. The cohort of staff is now highly active, having its meetings over the next month. And following the conclusion of that stage of the process, the actions coming out of that work will be blended with the action plan from last year. It has also been a year where we have seen significant impact in our branches, even while closed. Three particular projects that we are incredibly excited about, either having been completed or nearing completion, include the Roxbury branch of the Boston Public Library, formerly Dudley Square, now Nubian Square, the completion of the Adam Street branch and Roslindale branches, which we will be looking forward to opening in the coming months. That will also include an in-person ribbon cutting for the Roxbury branch, which we were unable to do as that project completed. Next slide, please. Additional accomplishments include the services, again, offered almost exclusively virtually through Tech Goes Home, our ESL conversation circles, a rebooted online homework assistance program serving our young people, and the launch of our Future Readers Club. At the meeting prior to this, the library team presented to the trustees the draft 5-year strategic roadmap, which we agreed will act as a bridge from the full Compass strategic plan towards a future strategic planning exercise. But we have in this document covered key principles that will help shape the work of the library over the next 5 years. We look forward also to engaging with the new Committee on Strategic Community Engagement to review and iterate this document in the meantime. Our special collections area have also seen significant activity during this period while closed, and not just because of the renovation of the Rare Books and Manuscripts Department, but cataloging, librarianship, and curation has continued. And now almost every single manuscript and manuscript collection in that department is findable by the public online for the first time. There are now 30,000 new entries in our database, which cover an estimated 100,000 individual manuscripts. Next slide, please. As we will get to later in the agenda, with respect to both the mayor's proposed budget and a key initiative for FY22, this involves the permanent elimination of late fines on materials for adults, already having completed that activity for young people in a previous year. This is a very exciting development that we have been given the revenue relief with your consent and positive vote to proceed with this elimination. And then within library services throughout the system, we are both prioritizing and expanding. We are looking at youth engagement and workforce development in particular, and beginning to take a more client-based or case management-based approach to this work. Enhancing also within youth engagement, additional out-of-school time programming, and the beginnings of yet another year with stronger collaboration with BPS. Next slide, please. Then with respect to ongoing and new initiatives for collections, we plan in the coming year to complete and then reopen the Rare Books and Manuscripts Department. We will be assessing our collection storage needs, both here at Central Library and at the Archival Center, implementing a new collection security policy in conjunction with reopening of that department, and developing a digital preservation plan. Many of these policies and plans will bring together work already in place, but perhaps not documented at the appropriate level. For the President's Office, our priorities remain focus on reopening, recovery, and our role in the city's recovery, and also renewal as we move through this phase of the pandemic. Additionally, we'll continue development support and to improve affiliate collaboration. In conjunction with the equity work previously mentioned, we have approval to add an equity coordinator position to the team to ensure that work continues apace. We are enhancing our strategic partnership programs, which will both be at the system-wide level and at the local level. And as we heard with the new committees, the team looks forward to increased trustee engagement on key matters. Next slide, please. And then in operations and technology, we will be implementing the actions called for in the technology plan previously approved, enhancing our security posture to take more account of simply a safety and health and welcoming approach to all our spaces, and continuing with efforts to modernize facilities management. Next slide, please. On the capital front, and we will have a vote later to approve the capital budget as proposed by Mayor Janey as well. This has been quite the active year, with capital projects completing in FY22, the full construction or renovation of the Adams branch and Rosendale branch, the Rare Books and Manuscripts renovation plan, and then several programming studies, which include the McKim master planning exercise due to complete over the course of the summer, and programming studies for both the West End and Eggleston Square branches. Additional work include the McKim Fountain and the Women's Locker Room renovation at the Central Library here. Projects that will continue include the Faneuil branch renovation, which will over the course of the next year be the only branch actually in construction, as many other projects are still at the planning and programming stages, having wrapped up 3 significant projects. The McKim fire panel replacement, Codman Square, the collection storage plan we refer to, and 2 planning efforts that we are engaged in actively with other city departments include planning for the new Chinatown branch, as well as a new branch for the Uplands Corner neighborhood. We have several projects which did not start during FY21, including 2 additional ones, which are listed on the right-hand side. This includes moving the Fields Corner project into formal design, programming studies for South End and North End, and then the new projects of a programming study at South Boston and the every 10 years or so facade inspection and repair that we are required to do for the Central Library. So our thanks go to the project management office under Alison Ford and many collaborators across the staff, and much community input across all of these projects also. Next slide, please. Key priorities for collections include executing on the $2.1 million grant to revitalize the library's founding research collection, and a range of services across all of library services as we move back to in-person service and look for opportunities to maintain a hybrid model of partial virtual and partial in-person, although we'll have to test out on that front exactly what will work well for our patrons. We look forward to launching an enhanced approach to workforce development services, looking at 3 particular branches for an economic hub pilot. More to follow on that in due course. And we are continuing to work with the Boston Public Library Fund to expand services to patrons in need of social services at the library. Next slide, please. Language access has become a particular priority for the City of Boston, and we are also prioritizing that work for ourselves, and we'll be doing that in conjunction with the Language and Communications Access Department. Next slide, please. So at this point, I would like to just pause and take some questions and comments. And Amanda, if you would briefly bring Laura Ermshire and Michael Colford and Eamon Shelton up to the panelist level. I may need help answering some questions if the trustees want to go into any detail on what has been an incredibly trying year, but I think a year that, despite all of the challenges, is one we can be proud of.
David, I don't necessarily have a question, but I do want to thank you and thank the entire BPL staff for this tremendous amount of work and dedication to the public, to the community, And I know it's been a trying year, and the accomplishments that you just highlighted are outstanding. So many thanks. I really appreciate personally and as a trustee, all the incredible work that you and the team have done this year and will continue to do.
Thank you.
David, thanks for that presentation. I had a quick question. There was a reference to focusing on or moving toward a client-based service model. What exactly does that mean?
Michael, if you're up at the panelist level, would you mind just expanding on this topic?
Sure. Good morning, trustees. I'd be happy to. This initiative is starting in the Kirstein Business Library and Innovation Center and our community learning departments. A lot of the work we're doing is preparing people, for example, for the workforce. So, we give them trainings on how to interview, how to write their resumes, how to fill out their forms to apply for jobs online. And then they're gone and we don't really follow them any further. So we're looking at ways we can be more integral to helping our visitors and our patrons succeed in their life goals. So by taking on a more client role, we start to develop more individual relationships with our patrons and stay with them ultimately, hopefully, through their success at finding a job and being successful at whatever they're trying to attain. It helps us in many ways, not only to develop better relationships with our patrons and to better serve them, it also helps us with our work to talk about the impacts we have serving patrons on a day-to-day basis, so that when we're working with the BPL fund to apply for additional private funding, we can better talk about actual impacts that we have on patrons.
Thank you.
David, could you elaborate on the language access program that you mentioned at the end? Does that involve adding staff who speak different languages, or what exactly?
So I'll also rely on Michael for a little bit of help with this. But to date, we have some positions where we'll pay a differential if they are in a key position where a particular language is needed and where they have that ability. Additionally, we have an obligation to translate materials, particularly when it comes to announcements for community meetings, for example. And so it's that work that we want to continue expanding on. And so those are kind of the two minimum areas where we can be able to serve patrons in multiple languages. Obviously, our World Languages collection has in varying degrees strengths in languages spoken across the neighborhoods of Boston. And then the city of Boston has set additional priorities for increasing the amount of materials that city departments have in multiple languages. Michael?
Sure, I'll just add briefly. We have our Chief of Adult Library Services, John Gifford, is our liaison to the city's Language Access and Communications Department. They're taking great strides in helping to support us serving our patrons that don't speak English. We have formed an internal committee. There was quite a bit of interest from staff around this, really to just create the guidelines so that every time we have like a summer reading flyer that we need to distribute, that we have a guidelines on how many languages we would translate that into, how we will provide this kind of service interpreted if we need to in different languages. And just to make sure we don't have to recreate the wheel every time we have another program, and keeping language access high on our priority list.
Thank you.
I'll move to the second of three topics in the President's report, and this is a brief update on our reopening plans, which I may also rely on Michael for a little assistance with. So at this point in time, we're not yet able to make public announcements of specific dates for specific locations, but over the course of the month of June, the library plans to begin reopening most, if not all, locations on a limited basis to the public. The guidance that was released by the governor and then followed by the mayor in the city of Boston with respect to May 29th allows for organizations to take a slightly more conservative and cautious approach if where they serve vulnerable populations or involved in early education work or our municipal buildings. And so while at this point in time, our plans for the month of June, once we complete bargaining with our unions and continue with some operational readiness, we expect to continue as planned over the course of the month of June. The new guidance may allow us to accelerate later phases more quickly, but at this point in time, our focus is on the June timeframe. We hope to be making some specific date announcements, so it'll be clear to the public what's open, when, and for what over the next few days. And sitting here in Bates Hall alone just reminds me once again that these places really only work well with patrons in them. So there's no shortage of desire on our part to get patrons back in buildings as soon as it is safe and with the right protocols to do so.
I'm wondering what has surprised you? What have you learned through this process?
The whole year or the reopening planning?
The whole year.
Great question, Priscilla, and I'm definitely going to ask Michael and Laura to share their thoughts on this as well. I think I was very worried in that February-March timeframe when we were going to shut down completely, as we did on March 16th. How would people continue to use or rely on the library in the months ahead? And so to see those numbers, even on the digital services front, continue to tick up across the months, both in terms of new e-cards, borrowing, that was so heartening to see. And then seeing our staff pivot to basically take a 107-year-old institution and turn it into an online service provider, or at least 90% of it into an online service provider within a matter of weeks was incredibly gratifying. But we never took our eye off the fact that we were missing many of our patrons that for whom that model just didn't work. We did what we could. We wish we could have done more. And we'll look forward, I think, to being back in person. Michael?
I'll just echo what David said. I think I was very impressed by the way the staff was able to pivot so quickly and so effectively to providing services online and to do their best providing services to patrons who couldn't access us online. And then this isn't really a surprise, but I was very heartened to see how soon into the pandemic the public was really just wishing they could come back into the library. And when they came to pick up their books, so many of them would express how much they missed coming to the library and how much they wanted to come back. And as we move closer and closer to allowing in-person services, every time I walk out of the building, there are people asking, why can't we come in? We'd like to come into the library. So the fact that people really want to come back and visit us is great to hear.
So Michael and David, you're seeing the office space, some of the issues and when offices are coming back, and do people come back in full? Do they come back part-time? I guess for the library, what you're seeing already, Michael, is people really wanting to come back. Do you have any concerns about, do we go back to that level? And do we need to go back to that level of patrons now that you have such a robust digital presence? And it sounds like you've got a lot of work done a lot quicker because something good may have come out of this a little bit in the sense that you've got this strong digital presence. But do you see the patrons coming back at the level that was before COVID, or are there some of the same issues that are potentially prevalent that we've seen in the office and space?
Sure. Well, as David mentioned, I think our biggest concern is the large number of patrons we serve who don't have access to us virtually. And those are often our most vulnerable communities. that really do rely on the library in the branches and the central library to visit and to use the computers that are there to take advantage of the Wi-Fi. They don't necessarily have the ability to do that from home. So I think we're very mindful of being able to serve those patrons again. And yes, quite honestly, I think fairly soon, and we've always followed whatever the city guidelines have been for health and safety and all of that. But I think there is a great desire among many of our patrons to come back in person.
Fantastic.
John, I'll give you my thoughts in a moment, but I want to give Laura a chance to also respond to Priscilla's question.
Thanks, David. Good morning, trustees. I just wanted to add that it was really remarkable and heartwarming to me to see how the staff found ways to connect with each other. They were so used to being able to be in the same building or, quickly connect. And we had all these large meetings where everyone saw everyone in person. And so seeing them flip to the remote world and finding ways to get together, whether it's through our online platform on Microsoft Teams or other groups or sessions they set up, they found ways to connect with their colleagues and really keep that team atmosphere going. I thought that was amazing. And then just in response to what John was saying, I think that we've shown the public how much more we can provide. So I see it as they'll want both. They'll want to come back, but they'll still want the online services because they meet different needs for different people at different points in their lives. So I think people are excited to know that we have more options available for them.
I mean, I think I think more people will want to come back in person than perhaps we were afraid of 3 to 6 months ago. We don't want to lose the services and abilities that we have been providing digitally. So at some point, that to me will require greater funding and more positions and greater infrastructure to be able to do both. Because in some ways we were able to be successful digitally because we weren't providing other than BPL to go, in-person service the way we would regularly. And so if we're going to be asked to do both, and there will certainly be some level of hybrid request, that's going to require greater investment. Not making a pitch today, but I do think once we learn the pattern of the rest of the summer and then into the fall, we'll have some data to inform what we think makes most sense. But I think our team will now be focused on what June, July, and August really look like. That's really our main priority now that we have clearance to look at June from a return to in-person service point of view. And so that's what will, I think, consume us.
And just to echo Samara, and I know probably a lot of the trustees feel the same thing, the amount of work and everything that you guys have been able to pull off during this trying time is pretty remarkable. And I mean, the fruits you see with the digital, but with all of the things that you've been doing, I couldn't say it more. You guys have just accomplished so much, and it's great to see. So congratulations on this.
Well, thank you all on behalf of the staff. Thank you. And I know for many, it was not easy. It was frustrating and tough and stressful and all of that too, but we've come out the other side of it.
David, can I just ask a follow-up question in terms of the reopening? And I know you can't share too many details at this point because the plans are being developed, but I'm just wondering in terms of the staff, we've talked about the need to pivot when we went online and digital services. What's the sentiment? What kind of supports will staff have as they come back to in-person services? And just wondering, what's your sense of that in terms of how it impacts staff and coming back in person?
Yeah, I'll get my colleagues to weigh in on this as well. I think even though we haven't been open to the public, a good portion of our staff has been working in buildings, perhaps not their full schedule, but at least on rotation basis, really since last June when we started BPL to go. And I think the sentiment is definitely wanting to see our patrons again in person. That's what I hear with a couple of branches that I've been able to visit and see some people. But we want to do it safely. We want to do it cautiously. And we want to try and make it as clear as possible so that there's little ambiguity as to what people can and can't do. Michael?
Sure, I think definitely what David mentioned, there's definitely an excitement to be serving patrons again, but also a concern about safety. So both of those things are very high on our minds. The other thing that's a big consideration that we're really working very hard to do is during the pandemic, when we were shut down, we were not actively filling vacant positions because we didn't know where the budget was going to go and how quickly we would be able to. Since we've been coming closer to reopening, the city has released all of those vacant positions and are actively processing them so that we can fill them. But as you probably would understand, many vacancies, many of those are filled internally, which just create additional vacancies. And there is a lengthy process in hiring anyone through the interview process and the checking of references. So we are a little bit short-staffed across the entire system because of these vacancies, and we're working really hard to fill them so that we'll be prepared as we open further.
So, now I'm going to add into that. So Michael, what do you feel staff need in order to ramp up? Because if you follow the news, getting staff into businesses, you're competing with many, right? So what do you think are the roadblockers? What are the things that can help you, that trustees can help you ramp up? Because service, we all know, right? Everybody, you guys know this. You need people to serve people. So what do you guys need to, open up that roadblock?
I think in many of the cases, when it's an internal promotion, we have a very good pool, obviously, with our existing staff. So for with library assistants, for example, in the branches, we have a lot of vacancies, and any of the higher level library assistant positions, I'm sure we'll see a great deal of internal candidates. And as far as entry level positions, I do think the library is still a fairly attractive place to work, and we. For example, we just did a big interview process to start filling some of these library assistants across the branches, and the pool we've been getting is still very large. So that's good. I think where we could potentially run into trouble and we could reach out to trustees for assistance are the more specialized positions. If it's a more specialized position, we may just need help spreading the word about the positions that are vacant. We have a couple of positions that are new or are specialized. That's always a little bit trickier, but the filling out the frontline staff and branches, we usually have a fairly good pool of candidates to choose from externally.
Excellent. I also want to, since I got the microphone for a minute, I just want to say that, and I don't know if there's Trustees and the people knew, but there were a lot of accolades calling out the Boston Public Library in terms of the efforts and how not only, pivoted to online, but support to the community, buying books to the small businesses. I mean, the library did a lot during this past year, and I know that you're overcritical of yourselves. There's always you could do more. So you learn about the experience, but I just want to say that you did receive a lot of accolades in the, in the city and outside of the city because of all the efforts. You did set the bar, and I want to thank you for that. Very proud to serve this organization.
Any more discussion before we call for the vote?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. We do need the vote on the strategic roadmap plan, which will take us through the next 5 years, with the previous caveats that this will be picked up by the new trustee committee on strategic and community engagement for continued iteration and oversight.
A motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call?
Arano Ortiz,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Asim,
Yes.
Bal,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Cronin,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Dorsina Fori,
Yes.
Heiler,
Yes.
Hawkins, You might have jumped off. Linehan? Rush? You might have jumped off. Tyler
Yes.
and Westra.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, thank you. I echo everything that's been said about the strategic plan and all that's been accomplished today, the fact that we pivoted, the fact that we're relevant, and that we have a plan for the future. Let's go now to the finance, to our Vice Chair, Evelyn Arena Ortiz.
All right. Is Ellen being promoted or is she already as a panelist? Okay. Okay, so we're gonna start with the capital budget and our operating budget. So I'm gonna pass it on to Ellen to do a presentation of our FY22. Miss Ellen.
Oops, just give her a minute.
Ellen, you're on mute.
Shoot. Sorry about that. As we discussed last week in the finance and audit meeting, Mayor Janey's FY22 budget submission for the library is a very good news document for us. If we start in the salary category, it includes 4 new positions, 1 generalist librarian for Rosendale, which, as Michael will tell you, is one of our busiest branches, a P3 equity and outreach coordinator, and 2 positions for the communications department. We also this year, as Michael talked about how many positions we've left open this past year, had a pretty significant salary surplus in FY21. In mid-year, we moved about $750,000 of that down to the book line. So we had a strong ability to buy additional books this year. And we held about $250,000 to cover some additional costs on the fountain. And so since we go into FY 2022 with a lot of positions open, the increase here for new positions, along with the lag on some of the hiring, I think we'll already probably looking at a budget surplus for our payroll line. If we go down, overtime is always flat. The salary costs is a belief that workers' compensation and unemployment will be down this coming year. Across the enterprise, the city estimates utility costs. That's down about 11%. Sort of an open question for me whether we'll see that go up is because we've been empty and we haven't had to heat and cool the buildings as much as we usually do. But the city budgets that across the city as a whole. So as long as they have sufficient funds for the enterprise citywide, they don't hold us to that number. Going down to contracted services, as folks know, we just rebid the security contract. They are a union shop, so the $159,000 includes costs associated with the increases in payroll for the security guards. Mayor Janey also includes $30,000 for spending for the outreach coordinator. So when that person joins us, they'll have some resources to do their work and to do their outreach. And then an additional $250,000 for reopening, primarily, I think, related to programming. And because we have spent very little of our own program money this year, because we've been closed, so everything's online, so we don't have a lot of branch-specific costs, we'll have quite a bit of programming funds for next year with what we carry forward from FY21 and this budget. Few small changes there. Software licensing charges are go over a 3-year cycle, so they tend to go up and down over the years. And then finally, a small increase to our equipment account. Most of our equipment is purchased on the trustee side on using unrestricted trust funds or using enterprise funds. So a fairly small amount of money there. And with that, I will pause for questions on the city operating budget.
Questions? All right, well, so next.
Next, we go to non-city funding. And as we discussed last week, this is always a bit of an estimate. So this is funding that is not the city, what we typically call trustee spending. We put it together in December as we're getting ready to file with the city in January. At that time, we don't really have perfect information for the upcoming fiscal year. And this year in particular with COVID made it a little bit more difficult to estimate. As we look through the categories, the affiliates are primarily the associates, the fund, and the citywide friends. We think that's a pretty good number at 1.6 because we ended last year right around 1.4, right where we had estimated. They are doing increase, funding is going up. Paula just brought in $2 million for some work that Laura and the special collections are doing. We'll start that spending next year. So we think that's a pretty reasonable estimate right now. If we look at the interlibrary loan and all the state accounts, again, we put this together in December. There are 3 different pieces of information that come out on state funding. The first is the governor's submission called House 1 for the first submission, first bill filed for any given calendar year. We don't have House 1 information when we put this together. Subsequently, in April, we get the House Ways and Means and then a final House vote. And more recently, we have gotten the Senate number. So if we look at interlibrary loan, we think that'll still be 100,000. But if you drop down to the library for the Commonwealth, we are actually at $3 million. We estimated last year about 2.7 and ended up being about 3.3 million. And the Senate most recently filed, we think it'll be about 3.4 million. So that number we think is still a pretty good number, but we'll see where we go from there. I'm going to skip other and just go to state aid for the time being. I'll skip other, go to state aid to libraries. Again, we estimated last year about 750,000. State aid has been going up. What we get depends, it's a pool, and any library in the public library in the Commonwealth, if they meet certain purchasing metrics, can have a share of that. We have the largest portion of it. This year, it's actually going to be 900,000, and under the most recent Senate budget, we think it could be next year as high as 980,000. So that too is an estimate. The trust funds, we ended last year at 1.3, so we thought it made sense to bring it down. Again, we didn't know in January what we don't know. We knew that we have been spending less of special collections money on research collections. Laura and her folks have been focused on regular circulating collections. So we didn't spend a lot of that money. Again, we haven't spent a lot on programming this year. I think now that we're reopening, we're going to take another look at that number, and I think it'll be significantly higher. Not just obviously on the city side, we have the mayor's money, but then we also have our own trust funds, most of which we didn't spend this year or last. And then to go back to other. Other is primarily, but not exclusively, enterprise money. Understanding, as I think everyone did, that we were probably going to have some, that the economy had done well for a long time and that we were overdue for a recession, we had put resources aside so that we could cover that if we saw event revenue going down. We certainly hadn't expected to go a whole year without any event revenue. We were fortunate that we were coming off a very strong year, 2 very strong years, our strongest since we began the program. So this year we haven't spent that much because we've been closed. We put aside salary reserves to pay for the event staff. I think as we get into next year and we start reopening, we'll probably see this number go up. But right now, based upon what we see from this year, where we are year to date with spending, I think that's still a reasonable number to hold. But as we get into the summer, we'll probably take another look at it and maybe bring it up. Again, these numbers are always somewhat of an estimate. So with that, again, I'll pause for questions.
Yeah, Ellen, so the events was an issue on the budget. This is really solid numbers, but what does still have you concerned if you back away events on this? Is there anything that, you kind of worry about on this budget and the funding and anything that's outstanding in the back of your mind that you have concern?
No, I mean,
with?
I think that the state funding has gone up, and what we see now with the Senate number was an upward trajectory from the governor's number. So any of those numbers, we're now at the House of the Senate number. Would prefer the Senate numbers, but the House numbers are good as well. The trust fund, of course, that's money that we have in the bank. If we don't spend it one year, it's there available to us the next year. So we're not particularly concerned about that either. Both the affiliates, the Fund for the Boston Public Library and the associates have had very strong fundraising, and the money that they have committed for salary we have, so we're not concerned about that. With them, a lot of things come up during the year that we don't know about until the grant comes, until they find a funding source for things we might be asking for, so we're not particularly concerned about that. And then in other, as I said, we put away a lot of money. I think a year ago, you might have argued that maybe we had banked a little bit too much and had been a little too cautious. We forward funded equipment for the branches and for the library central for as I say, equipment for furniture. So we have that money available to us. We also put aside money for a fairly aggressive amount of money for IT costs for 2 or 3 years. We could have that available to us if we wanted it. But because we paid for a lot of things last year as we were getting ready for COVID, we've actually not spent that much money this year. So with the idea that we'll be getting up and running soon, I think we're in pretty good shape all around.
And Ellen, I just want to say that that's a good call out. I mean, I've been here for a while and that the state dollars had been diminishing year after year. And, you know, in the last year or two, we've seen them come up. So very appreciative to the, to the state officials for the additional funding. Because we do serve everybody in the Commonwealth, not just the city of Boston. All right, any more questions around the budget? And I think that's it, right, Ellen? We just take a vote?
We could do a quick look at
oh, the capital budget. Yeah,
the capital. Let me just pull that up. I had it right here.
Yeah,
Capital is down a little bit for next year. I should note that the city takes off projects that are complete, which is why you don't see Roxbury branch here any longer. But it calls for a slight decrease from about 29 million. Well, it's more than a slight decrease from 29 to about 21 million. But that's primarily because we saw some big projects wrap up this year. So Adams Street is going from 7.5 to 4.6, and that may be done before that. And the Rare Books was estimated spending at 7.7, and because they're significantly through construction, it's estimated next year at 3.6. The new project on this is for South Boston to do a study for that branch. But aside from that, it should be, I'll ask David if he'd like to call anything out, but it should be pretty familiar to people.
Yeah, I previewed most of this in the accomplishments and initiative document, and the number of projects is not going down, even if the actual spend for next year due to just timing looks lower than it has done.
All right, that's it for the budget. I don't see a vote. I thought we needed to take a vote.
We do need to take a vote.
All right, so there is the vote. Thank you so much. So taking a vote, can I please get a motion to adopt this budget? So can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Veronica Ortiz,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Asim,
Yes.
Lau,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Cronin.
Sorry, yes.
That's okay. Douglas,
Yes.
Josina Forey,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Hawkins, may not be back. Linehan,
Yes.
Rush,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
and Westra.
Yes.
So moved.
All right, next. So we're gonna talk about contracts. So we have a couple contracts for approval. So one is the critical repair. So this is where we approve any critical repairs for budget of FY22 to the libraries. It covers for estimated of less than $100,000, and in no event will contracts, I can't speak today, cumulatively exceed 300,000.
So the city, just by the way of background, puts $300,000 in our operating budget to take care of emergency repairs. So we ask for this without needing a further trustee vote. It tends to be emergency things, tends to be leaking roofs and that sort of thing. So we ask authorization to go ahead without further trustee approval.
Okay. Do I have to do one at a time, Pamela? Can I do these two at the same time?
As long as there's no questions on it, I think we could do a slate of votes as long as you ask.
Okay. Got it. So any questions on the critical repairs? One, two, nope. Okay. The next one is authorizing contracts for the purchase of books and other library materials. And this is based on the contract. This is the contractor list that we provide the city through procurement. So any questions about this one? Nope. All right, so let's take, can I please get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call?
Rana Ortiz,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Asim,
Yes.
Bal,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Cronin,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Josina Fori,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Hawkins, Linehan,
Yes.
Rush,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
and Westra.
Yes.
Okay, the next vote, thank you so much. The next vote is in regards to the Fellows Athenaeum Trust Advisory Committee. So this is a distribution. This is related, so to give you some background, this is related to the committee charter is to manage the funds gifted to the library by the Fellows Athenaeum Trust for instruction purpose at the Roxbury Library. This committee holds an open request for proposal process to carry out programming throughout the year. And we're very much looking forward to the opening of the library. We're currently ramping up to start programming in the upcoming months. We're very excited. This is an unusual high balance because we're carrying over from last year because as library closed, no programming was carried out. So we're very much looking forward to do a big splash with the opening and planning. It's in progress. So this vote is for the request of approval to the distribution of $242,940. Are there any questions regarding the Fellows Athenaeum Trust Fund and the committee? No?
I think this is an illustration of why we spent so little money from the trusts this year. So we have a big balance because they weren't open this year. Typically, this would be a much smaller amount.
Yeah. Plus the markets were very good to us this year too. No questions? All right. So can I please get a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, roll call. Pamela?
I was talking on mute, sorry. Arana Ortiz,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Asim,
Yes.
Bal,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Cronin, Cheryl, Douglas,
Yes.
Josina Fori,
Yes.
Hyler,
Yes.
Linehan,
Yes.
Rush,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
and Westra.
Yes.
All right, next. All right, the next one is delegation of contracts for the summer timeframe. So as the trustees break for the summer, we request delegation of any contracts approval that may come up of critical nature to the Finance and Audit Committee. So that's the first one. Is there any questions? In the period, it's detailed there. It's from after this meeting through September until the trustees reconvene. Any questions regarding this? No? Okay. The next one, and I'm going to probably have Laura come in and give us a little bit more details, but as David mentioned, we received a grant of $2 million to revitalize the founding research collection. This contract will need some assistance for the administration, and that's what this contract's all about. Laura, do you want to offer some more details around this contract?
Sure. Thank you, Evelyn. So we will be putting out an RFP to hire a project manager, and that person will oversee the grant, the $2.1 million project. So they will be responsible for identifying the different components of the grant, which involve inventorying, cleaning, cataloging, and preserving the collection. So we're asking the board to delegate the approval of the contract for the RFP that we issue to hire a project manager.
Any questions regarding this contract? No? Okay, so can I, if there's no questions on these two items, can I get a motion to approve both of these?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
roll call?
Arano Ortiz,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Asim,
Yes.
Bal,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Bradley,
yes.
Cronin,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Tosina Fori,
Yes.
Hyler,
Yes.
Hawkins, Linehan,
Yes.
Rush,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
and Westra.
Yes.
Okay, next. All right, the next vote, this is a vote to authorize this contract. We went through, library went through an RFP process. Under this contract, the company will assess the space, measure the collection, the overflow, the storage, crowding, how much space is needed, and what do we have, including outside storage. You know, it's basically looking at our research collection and what space is needed so it's not overcrowded. And then the lowest, this proposal was at the lowest cost and also the most advantageous. Any additional details, Laura, that you want to offer to the trustees?
I would just add that this is the first step in a long-term collection storage strategy. So this is our assessment to understand how much space our collection should be taking up and how much space we need. And from that, we'll be able to do a lot more planning for the best storage conditions for our collections.
Yeah, I just want to say to the trustees, this has been a multi-year program of work. And this is a really good thing that we're doing here. Any questions?
I'm sorry. I'm just a little confused. I'm looking through the agenda. I don't see this one on the written agenda. Am I missing something?
This is, yeah, it is there. It's item F.
Okay, what I have, okay.
You see it?
Yeah, what I have is item F. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing. I'm looking at approval of program selection partners. Is that the same thing?
You're looking at an older version of the agenda before this one was added with the actual vote and the name. It was originally not named and it didn't have the amount.
Okay.
When the RFP was granted, we put it on the agenda as
Okay,
such.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any questions regarding this one? No, all right, I move to the next one and then we'll take it as a together. All right, this one, I want to see some excitement because this is a topic that the trustees have been talking for a long time about, you know, eliminating our fines, you know, late fines. I don't know if you all know, but this vote does not impact the library revenues. These revenues, you know, not directly. These revenues go directly to the city where they get this, you know, redistributed. So we're very excited to take this to a vote where we eliminate the fines. Any questions regarding this? And you all need to show excitement because I'm excited.
Yeah, I think this is terrific. This is, I think, what we should be working on. This is a terrific thing and move forward.
If I could ask Michael to just give a little more background on why this is so significant, I think it would be important to have that rationale on the record, even though I know many of the trustees are very familiar with why this is so important.
Great, thank you, David. Yeah, the library has also been working on this for quite a number of years, so we're very excited that this is finally on the table. As you know, last year we eliminated fines for anyone under 18 at the end of 2019. That was very exciting, and now this would remove fines for anyone across the board. You know, the accrual of fines, this is really largely an equity issue. Accrual of fines really puts a barrier between some communities and the use of the library that's often insurmountable to the people who are affected and prevents their future use of library materials. You know, some of the implications are of eliminating fines, the positive implications are really, it reduces barrier for access to the library. We all know that overdue fines can prevent people from using the library, particularly those who are experiencing economic hardship and have a strong need for the free resources the library offers. Many people simply stop using the library when they accrue overdue fines. As I mentioned, it's a serious equity issue, and the elimination of fines gives all people the same access to all library materials. And it really reflects a core value of the BPL as an institution that is accessible to all. The fines we're referring to, of course, are late fees. So if someone loses a book, they would still be responsible for paying for that book or providing a replacement for that book. And there will be safeguards so books just don't walk out the door. If people have overdue books, while they won't be charged for a fine, they'll just be asked to bring those overdue books back before they can check out new books. But it really is a huge move forward and really allows people to access the library without any concern or fear about being shamed or not being able to afford to pay a fine. And we've also found, I've worked in other libraries that have eliminated fines, and quite often, many people want to show something, like if they return a book late, they say, well, how much do I owe? And we say, we don't collect fines anymore. You can just return the book. They often say, well, what would I owe if I did have to pay a fine? Because they want to make a donation or they want to do something. And so often the fine might be $1.65 or $1.85, and they throw a $5 bill in a donation bin. So we actually often make more money in donations than the fines would have cost. So we're very excited, happy to answer any additional questions, but we'd love to see a yes vote on this.
And procedurally, we required the city of Boston to give us revenue relief permission to proceed with this. And therefore it's part of the city's budget, which city council will vote on normally by June 30th. And this vote today will give us the ability to make the policy changes consistent with this. So while we have waived fines for the duration of COVID, this will allow us to put this officially into place permanently as of July 1st, the start of the new fiscal year.
Any more questions? And I want excitement.
Very exciting.
Very. You have no idea how many years we've talked about this. So to me, I'm like, whoop, whoop. So we're very good. So, all right. So any questions? All right. If there's no questions, can I please get a motion for these two votes, please?
Yes, so moved.
Yes.
Yes. Second.
Second.
All right. Roll call.
Morano Ortiz,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Paul,
Emphatically, yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Cronin,
Yes, definitely.
excuse me, Douglas,
Huzzah, yes.
Dosina Fori,
Yes.
Hyler,
Yoo-hoo. Yes, this is awesome.
Hawkins,
Yes.
thank you, Linehan,
Yes.
Rush,
Yes.
Tyler, and Westra.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I cut you off, Representative.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for the excitement. All right. Priscilla, back to you.
Great, thank you very much. In the beginning, I was saying we've heard a lot of good news, and certainly this area of fines and creating and changing the relationship that we have with our patrons to be forgiving, to interact with them in a way to reduce these barriers is so critical. So yes, I'm excited about that. I'd like to now go to the proposed schedule of trustee meetings for 2021-22, and we will need a vote on this as well. So the vote that the trustees of the library approve the proposed schedule of meetings for 2021. Get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Morano Ortiz,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Asim,
Yes.
excuse me, Paul,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Cronin,
Yes.
Douglas, excuse me, Douglas, Dosina Fori,
Yes.
Hyler,
Yes.
Hawkins,
Yes.
Linehan,
Yes.
Rush,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
and Westra.
Great, thank you. So I'd like to open it up to the trustees, and staff, any new business, anything that we haven't discussed regarding the items that you'd like to bring up?
Got nothing.
Nothing, okay. All right. Thank you. So we'll move to the next item, which is to welcome public comment. We welcome public comment. People have signed up via the chat, and I'll turn it over to, to manage. Pamela.
Some
Oh, Pamela froze.
Just while we wait for Pamela to come back, I at least know that we had David Vieira and Alyssa Kadillik sign up for public comment. So why don't we start with those two, and then we'll work on our technical problem in the meantime. Amanda?
Yes.
Yes,
Thank
David,
you.
go ahead.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Madam Chairman. I only have one observation. During the president's review of branch projects, there was no mention of the Hyde Park Branch Library. We have been closed during the entire COVID period because of a project of water remediation in our branch. And I'll make the observation that it's taking longer to do this project than it has to tear down and rebuild the Adams Branch Library. Mr. President, can I get an update on when the Hyde Park branch can come back to life again?
Thank you, Mr. Vieira. We will contact you after the meeting to answer any questions in the public comment.
Thank you very much. That's all.
I just want to note that I'm sorry I got knocked off earlier. In regards to a lot of some of the public members have left questions. I ask if you'd like to do any kind of question, you either have to give us your email so that we can respond back to you after the meeting, or I need you to go on public record to sign up for public record. We will not be acknowledging these comments. I have no way of getting in touch with you without contact information. So next we have Alyssa Kadillik.
Good morning. So thank you, Madam Chair and trustees. And when the trustees voted to go fine free for our youth, I spoke in favor of eliminating fines for all. So to echo what was heard, the final vote on the matter by the trustees will increase access to our resources for many of our patrons. And most excitedly, I'm really excited that Evelyn got her excitement this time on the vote. I know she didn't get as much during the FinCom meeting, so but I'm also very excited. As president of AFSCME 1526 and as behalf of my membership, we actually feel that the strategic roadmap outlined by President Letter does not go far enough to building a staff culture for all based on respect and professional development. It's not enough to become an anti-racist organization. We also have to address the perpetuated inequities, staff, and lack of true professional growth within the BPL. My members are the face of diversity at the BPL, and yet all too often are not afforded the respect or recognition of the work they do and excluded from many of the BPL initiatives because of a lack of respect by coworkers and some leadership. And this is the very opposite of creating an inclusive workplace. A good start would be for leadership to define professional as they see it and not depend on a definition under Mass General Law relative to library staff. It's unclear if the YW Boston work will address this issue, and so depending on recommendations that may solely focus on racial inequity, while important, may not make any changes to the internal workings of BPL. Another thing this pandemic has done is to highlight the importance of air quality within buildings. Our HVAC systems across our branches need a lot of TLC. A report of the air exchanges per hour shows many of our branches are not providing adequate air circulation and weren't doing so pre-pandemic. And as we think about protecting workers and the public, it needs to be addressed. An example with the North End of 0.37 exchanges per hour, and other locations have non-functioning units, and in the past have been told they won't be fixed. This is unacceptable to both our workers and to the public. I also asked that the trustees examining the hiring practices for the practical implementation of the Founding Research Collection Plan once the project is set to begin, to determine if they represent the best use of funds by the library. The proposed plan, once a contractor project manager is hired, is to outsource the handling of these materials instead of hiring library employees to safeguard their collections. Instead, the Chief of Collections prefers to pay money to supporting the salary of corporations and external contractors instead of investing in good paying jobs and working towards increasing the diversity and equity within our library. I thank you for your time.
Next, we have Marie Furman, I believe.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Marie Furman, and I am a lifelong resident of Roxbury and the founder and president of Black Biz Development Group, LLC. I wanted to first talk a little bit about the digital divide in the Black community, and that, you know, even though you boast that you went from, you know, serving families to a digital platform, you know, a lot of families did not get served. And I was wondering how you were going to compensate for that with the budget and with programs that are going to support families and students in the community. Also, that the library is used very differently these days than it was when I was growing up. Many families, many students use the library as refuge because their houses are overcrowded or they're homeless. And I also was wondering when a discussion around those kinds of issues are going to be had. I am in favor of changing the name to Nubian Library for a number of reasons. I, you know, can write and the board and let them know all of the reasons that I'm totally in favor of doing that. Not to think that it should have been a natural process. You know, you named the library after the square. And, you know, and I don't know why we are fighting to name the library Nubian Library, but, you know, I guess that's what we have to do. And it's very unfortunate. I'm hoping that with all this wonderful things that are happening for the library this year because of the pandemic, where so many of our families have lost members. I just lost a girlfriend the other day to the pandemic. And, you know, I'm just hoping that the, I guess my time is over.
It is, I'm sorry, I'm trying to.
Okay, no problem. But I just wanted to thank you all for serving. And I'm hoping that, you know, you see that the Nubian Library is very, very important and significant in this time and day. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Yvette Giroux.
Marie, we're very sorry for your loss.
Next, we have Yvette Giroux.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for all that you have been doing in support of the library services. over this past year plus. I have a quick question, which is the money for the South End programming study being rolled over from fiscal year 21?
Thank you, Ms. Giroux. I have your email and we will certainly follow up with you on the answers to any of the questions today.
Thank you.
Next, I have Elizabeth Nagaraja.
Good morning. I didn't know if we were having this on the agenda, but I did send in some information regarding, first off, my name is Elizabeth Nagaraj. I'm with the Friends of the Roxbury Library. And on behalf of the board, there has been going on a 2-year discussion regarding the naming of the branch. And I just want to go on record that while we have met with Siddiqui Cambone, who's one of the big pushes towards the naming of the library, the Friends did support the board in naming the library the Roxbury Branch Library. And I do want to go on record that the Friends are still standing by that support, just so that is known. I think there will continue to be discussion about that, but I hope that as we listen to the various comments that we can come to a conclusion on the official name of the Roxbury Branch Library. Thank you.
And that was it for public comment.
Thank you all for your comments and your caring for the library. I'm going to go to the next agenda item, please. And that the next agenda item is we need to take a vote for the executive session. And the executive session will occur after the second meeting. And the purpose of this executive session is to discuss the status of the legal guardianship of the John Adams Library under exemption 3 of the open meeting law. Is there anything else that I need to add to that, Pamela?
Just that we will not be reconvening into a public meeting after we will not be reconvening into a public session after the executive session.
Thank you. So we need a roll call vote for this.
Yes.
I'm sorry, a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
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 Arano Ortiz.
Yes.
Asim. I'm sorry. Arenas.
Yes.
Asim.
Yes.
Val.
Yes.
Berman.
Yes.
Bradley. He just got knocked off. He sent me a text. He'll be back in a minute. Cronin.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Dorsina Forey.
Yes.
Hyler.
Yes.
Hawkins.
Yes.
Linehan.
Yes.
Rush.
Yes.
Tyler.
Yes.
And Westra.
Yes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to adjourn this meeting and move into the second meeting, which is operating as a corporation. I'm not going to call for a roll call in terms of the who's in attendance here. We'll accept the previous roll call, and this is the annual meeting as a corporation. And the first item on this agenda is, okay, you're showing a slide, confirm members are present. Okay, everyone is present. And I'm going to turn it over to John Haler, our committee chair for governance and development, for his report.
Great. Thank you, Priscilla. Very quickly, we had one important item today at our committee meeting this morning, and that is nominations for the slate of officers to nominate, and that is that the Board of Trustees of the Boston Public Library, City of Boston, approve the recommendation of the Trustees Governance and Development Committee for the slate of officers of the Trustees of the Public Library of the City of Boston and the clerk of the board for the period of May 18th, 2021 through May 18th of 2022. just very quickly on the agenda, there is a typo. I don't know if we need to change
is.
that or not.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. And just very quickly, just so everybody knows, this includes, of course, Priscilla Douglas as the chair, Evelyn Arana Ortiz for the vice chair, and Pam Carver for the nomination of the clerk of the board. The reason why I wanted to bring up their names, David relayed, and I think we all know this is the first time that all of the executives of our of the corporation board are women, and I think it's important to note that, and it's a great sign of the way things have changed. And as I said earlier on our governance and development committee, acknowledging this is a great thing, but at the same time, let's look forward to having a point where we never have to acknowledge that because it's just commonplace. But again, this is a great thing for us. And so what I'd like to do is ask for a vote by the board. And Pam, if you wouldn't mind, if I could get a motion for that, to move for a vote for the nomination for the slate of officers.
So moved.
Second?
Arana Ortiz?
I get to vote for myself. Yes.
It's a democracy still.
Yes. Yes.
Asim?
Yes.
Bal?
Yes.
Berman?
Yes.
Bradley?
Yes.
Cronin?
Yes.
Douglas?
Yes.
Josina Forey?
Yes.
Tyler?
Yes.
Hawkins?
Yes.
Linehan?
Yes.
Tyler? China, are you there?
Yes.
Thank you. In Westra?
Yes.
So moved.
So thank you. So because again, this is our annual meeting, we have, these are annual votes or enabling votes, and there are, I think there's 6 of them that we need to take that deal with the operation as a corporation. And I think I have Ellen and David if you have questions about any of these, but we need to take a vote on each one separately. Is that correct?
You can do the same as Evelyn if you'd like, Priscilla, where you can read through them, ask if there's any question, and then take a final vote at the end.
Okay, so please feel free, because particularly for the new trustees, this is the first time you may have seen some of these. Again, they're annual votes, but we have time to answer any questions. The first one has to do with the signing of payrolls. That's pretty clear in terms of the taking care of that. The second one is has to do with signing of contracts approved by the board, and you can see the authorization there. The next one has to do with let's see, what does it say? The payrolls, contracts, enabling the acceptance of gifts. These are payments made in for special services rendered and for publications and prints. And we talked about that a little earlier. You saw that in the major budget. So that's a vote that we need to take. And the next one has to do with payments made in recognition. Or did I, let me see, that's 5. Okay. Contracts approved by the board and then payments.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the 5 or 6 areas that these are annual votes. Are there any questions? There's more, right?
Can you go up, Amanda? Nope, the other way.
I have a second page.
There we go. It's there now.
Okay, so those are all payments and contracts and payments. Now these next categories have to do with adding funds to already existing. So that has to do with transactions, the distribution of income, and there are 3 areas under there that have to do with the actions of our chief financial officer in terms of various funds of the city. And the final one is enabling of our trust funds. And you heard the details on that earlier. What questions you have about these annual voting on any or all of these?
No questions from me.
Okay, there. So we'll take a a motion to approve these annual items. Please.
Yes. Did you get a motion? Thank you.
Second. Second.
Thank you. And roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Priscilla. Arana Ortiz,
Yes.
Arenas,
Yes.
Asim,
Yes.
Bal,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Bradley,
Yes.
Cronin,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Dosina Forey,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Hawkins, Linehan.
Yes.
Hawkins, yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Jeff. Linehan. Rush,
Yes.
Tyler, China,
Yes.
and Westra.
Yes.
So moved.
Great, thank you. We are a very efficient, well-run corporation here. Let's go to the next item, has to do with new business. Anything to discuss regarding our operation as a corporation? All right, so I will accept the motion to adjourn this meeting. And we will go into executive session, which is a different link. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you, Priscilla. It is a different link as it's not a public meeting. This one will be closed out.
Okay, so a motion to adjourn and I will, and second. Thank you.
Motion.
Hey, Pam, just in case, can you give out that passcode real quick to us?
I can resend you the link via. email.
Yeah, just resend the link. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure. I got it.
And we're joining right away, right? We're
Or at
Yes.
10:30.
So we're gonna leave this meeting and go to the link that Pamela is sending to us?
Correct. It will put you into a waiting room until David or I put you into the room.
I just need a few minutes, everyone, to track down outside counsel who is joining us. He had been prepared for 10:30, so I just need,
10:30, yeah.
but I'll get him.
So we'll
Great.
say 10:15,
All right.
please, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
That'd
Thank
be
you.
great. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
We're convening immediately, or did you say 10:15?
10:15 would be great. I just need a few minutes to.
Convening at 10:15 on the other link. Thank you all.
Thank
We'll
you,
see in the
Priscilla.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you to the public for attending.
Thank you.